Hello, my name is Deidre Aguilar, and I will be presenting on Daniel, the interpreter of dreams. So first, the character himself, Daniel lived from 620 to 538 BC. He served under 4 different kings. He served under the Babylonian and the Persian Empire. He served under Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, and Cyrus. As well, he was a royal bloodline. He was from royal bloodline from Judah. He was most likely a prince in training, some distant relation, but he was royal bloodline. Him and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, we know them from the blazing furnace story. Him and his friends, as I like to say, went to Babylonian college. They were taken, it says in Daniel 1 verse 5, that they were taken as teens, it's suggested, into the care of the Babylonians, and they were trained on all of the cultures and languages and everything for the service of the king. Once he was in that service, he was given a Babylonian name, Belshazzar, I think is how you pronounce it, and that's actually a name after one of the Babylonians' prestigious idols. So it was a title of honor in a sense. In context, this Bible story, Daniel served in a foreign land to rulers that destroyed his homeland. So probably in context, there was a lot of tension and mixed feelings and uncertainty. Israel was being carried off into exile because of their unfaithfulness to God by the Babylonians. And yet we see in Daniel, throughout the book and in many of his stories, we see him and his friends remaining faithful to their God Yahweh. As well, this story happened during a time of distress and destruction and uncertainty, because as well the temple was destroyed in 605 BCE. King Nebuchadnezzar just came and destroyed it all, and of course the Israelites were devastated. So the story I want to focus on is the one where King Nebuchadnezzar has a troubling dream. He dreams of a statue of gold, and there's clay and there's iron. The statue starts to fall over, and he's troubled by this when he wakes up. So he calls all of his wise men and magicians together to get them to explain to him what it means. The only plot twist in this part is that he does not tell them the dream. He asks them to tell it to him in order for him to know that truly they have the right interpretation of it. When his people can't explain this to him or reveal to him what his dream was, he decides to execute all of them, saying that they are no good and there's no point to them. Somewhere along the way, Daniel hears of this decree and asks, and it says, with wisdom and tact, why the king decreed such a harsh judgment. So he asks for more time, confidently stating that he can and will interpret the dream. So he goes to his friends and asks for their help, and they spend the whole night praying to God for mercy and for wisdom. And finally, when it seems like the last moment, Daniel receives and interprets the dream that King Nebuchadnezzar had. After he does this, he goes to the king, he explains it all, he says, this is what it meant, this is what you dreamed, and this is why you were given this dream. And after King Nebuchadnezzar realizes that this is the truth, he falls on the floor like this picture shows, and he says that Daniel's God is the highest God and that he should be given glory. After that, he's also, Daniel is put into a position of power for the glory of God. And this sets up the rest of the book. This is the decisive moment because it sets Daniel apart as one who is set apart for God and for his glory. So the lesson that we can learn from this is that God is the King of Kings and he alone should be worshipped. Many times King Nebuchadnezzar tries to get his own magicians and wise men to give him information and guidance, when in the end it always comes back to Daniel and how God gives him godly wisdom, true wisdom, and King Nebuchadnezzar realizes, or whichever king it is that Daniel is under, he realizes that Daniel's God is higher and mightier than anything that they could come up with on their own. The other point of this story is that wisdom alone comes from God, which is kind of just what I explained. A few more points. Daniel's story, the specific one I spoke of, but also the entire rest of the book, proves that God did not abandon his people. It's probably common, and it would be common for the Israelites to think that God had abandoned them because they are brought into exile, they're under the Babylonians. But all of this is just a reminder that God is still with them, even though he did send them away, technically. It also shows that God is in control of history. We see that even though it is a foreign land, it's a foreign country, it's not Jerusalem, it's not the place of Israel. Even though God isn't working in that specific location, he still works under foreign kings, and he uses whoever is faithful to him to bring him glory and to show his might and his power. And Daniel was a great servant, an example of that. And that is all. Overall, Daniel changed the course of Jewish history because he proved and showed that even God works under foreign rulers, and that he's still with his people, whether they are in Israel as the location itself. Doesn't matter where they are, it matters that God is still with them, and that even in their unfaithfulness, he is still faithful. That is it. Thank you.